I'm here with Kat from St. Petersburg, Florida, which house hacking to me is a basement, which you don't have basements in St. Petersburg, Florida, right, Kat?
Right. That's very
like
true.
It would probably be full of water if you did.
Yes.
So like for me, I house hacked my basement, and I was talking to Kat, who is an awesome, just wealth of knowledge in the student loans, yeah.
Yeah.
Space of how to minimize student loans, and we got to chatting, and she also is a house hacker, and I was like, Kat, I would love you to share your story. So tell me about the very first house that you bought and started house hacking. How did you get in to be a house hacker?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I was like renting this downtown Sarasota apartment in Sarasota, Florida. And I was paying it was like a studio. I was paying like $1,000 something. And my mom's like, look, I ran into this house that's in short sale. It's 5 minutes away from downtown. And they're selling it for dirt cheap. It was like $70,000.
Oh my God.
And not that great of a neighborhood. But my mom's like, you got to buy it, because why are you paying this amount of money in rent when you could just get a mortgage and get this house and live? And I was like, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. You know, this whole thing. So my mom pushed me to buy it. I got it. It was a 3-bedroom house, 3-2. And I was like, I don't really need all this space. I was living in a studio. So I took the master, I took the primary bedroom. And then I was like, the 2 rooms, I just rented out on Airbnb for a pretty modest amount of money. And
like a ballpark nightly rate.
It was around $2,000 a month. I don't remember exactly.
$2,000 a month total. So you were more than paying your mortgage.
Oh my God. I was
like
paying 2 or 3 times my mortgage at that point because the house was so cheap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was making $2,000 a month. And by the way, at that time I was working at a nonprofit helping kids get into college. But the point is I wasn't making that much money. I graduated in 2008 in the economic crisis. People didn't get great jobs, right? So the point is I wasn't making that much money, but I qualified still for I qualified for that small mortgage, right? So I did that. I was like, wow, this is really good. This is great extra money, right? And I was like, what am I going to do with this extra money? So I was like thinking grad school. So I started saving the money for grad school. And then what happened was I got sent to like a leadership conference in St. Petersburg, where I live now, which is only like 45 minutes from where I was living. And I went there and I was like, why am I living in Sarasota where the average age is like 90 when here it's like a city with all these young people? Because I was only 26 or 7 at the time. So I was like, this is the place I should be living. So I literally drove by a house and saw like a realtor sign, like somebody listed a house with a guy, like with this realtor, which by the way, he's an awesome guy. He's still keep in touch with him. I called him up and I was like, hey, I just saw your sign. Can you help me find a house here? And then I decided literally from going to a conference for 2 nights that I was going to move to this place, but I was going to go to grad school. So I was like, I saved up that money for grad school. And I was like thinking to myself, do I pay for a down payment on another house or do I save it for grad school and take out less student debt? That was kind of like my calculation. And then he started helping me look. And I knew nothing about St. Pete. I was like, I'm completely reliant on you. Put me in a decent neighborhood. He's like, okay, this is a decent one. I didn't know anything about the neighborhood, but the price again was a good value. It had a ton of deferred maintenance, but I was like, you know what? I can afford it. I have the down payment. So I went ahead and bought this house in 2016, right before I left for grad school.
The house you live in today?
The house I live in today, right now. That you see in the background.
2016, 9 years of equity appreciation, and you've been renting it out.
Well, first of all, that Sarasota house I have rented out already. I still own that. This house, what I did was I had a vision for it. It had a ton of deferred maintenance, but I was like, listen, I can split it up and literally make a 2-bedroom at the front and make like a mother-in-law in the back. So that's how I started. And what I did was I remodeled and got rid of the carport and made it into a 2 full bedrooms in the back. So now I have more like a duplex. So I
call it a sneaky duplex. When you take a single family house and you divide it into 2, it's not really a duplex, but it's like you have your half, guests or tenants have their own separate space. So the privacy is no different than a condo, but you have a house that you own that is appreciating.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got.
So then I started like really working on my remodeling skills from all the deferred maintenance. Then I made that into a 2-bedroom. And I got rid of the carport, but we still keep upgrading the house, right? I'm about to get solar panels, by the way, to reduce our energy costs. But the point is, I have a 2-bedroom. Before I fully made this into a 2-bedroom, I decided I was going to ask my neighbor if I could take down their fence and drag in a custom-built tiny house. So I actually even have a tiny house in my backyard.
Airbnb or long-term tenant?
It's like a medium term. Like I'll rent it out for 3 to 6 months at a time, just because I don't want to deal with all the turnover.
And income-wise, how much are we making approximately off of the tiny home?
I make $1,200 off the tiny house.
Okay, and then the 2-bedroom?
I make $2,000 off.
That's incredible. So you're also still covering a larger mortgage in the bigger house with.
Yes,
somebody else.
I'm making money off the house I live in. Yes.
That's exactly what house hacking is, and why I love what I do is to show people it is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is like I bought 9 years ago, so now this house like is worth 3.5 times what it was then.
Yep.
So arguably,
that's like why I do what I do, is to like get people
right, absolutely,
grow with inflation, to have that appreciation gain, because 99% of houses, maybe 95% of houses, if you bought them today versus 10 years ago,
right. And so I always use the 1% rule too. Like for example, like I had a realtor try to convince me that I should sell this house. And I was like, okay, convince me. I want it. By the way, I told them, convince me why, convince me. They're like, the argument they use, because I said I wanted to go away for a few months. They're like, well, you're not going to be here to take care of the house. I'm like, okay, so what price would I need to replace 5? Because if I move out of this part, it could easily make over $5,000.
Yep.
So the 1% rule, if it doesn't sell for at least 500,000, then I'm not making up for the money that I should make based on how much it's renting for. I need to make at least, this house needs to be worth at least 500,000. And right now in this market, because our market is softening, I'm not going to get 500,000. So it makes 0 cents to sell. The economics make 0 cents. But because they're a realtor and they depend on the commit, like they were trying to convince me. But the point is they were unable to convince me.
A good realtor will like not do that, but yes.
Right. Because no, but they also aren't used to, I guess, people like me. But here's the point. The point is you learn so many skills. You learn, like I learned how to upgrade homes. I now have all the contacts to upgrade homes. So now I help other people who feel burnout from their jobs, especially medical professionals, figure out how they can use real estate to get other income to leave medicine or to do medicine part-time or to have a more flexible work schedule, right? So now I can I can consult and help people understand, how do you remodel? What are the financials? What house at what price makes sense? How much do you have to put into it? How much you're going to get rent out of this market? What's the insurance going to cost? What the tax is going to cost? Does it make sense for this property, right? And how do you go about doing it? Get the people to do it. How do you now manage tenants, et cetera, et cetera? So now it's almost like that's my side gig, right? Outside of running Loan Sense, but that's like kind of my side gig, because I get really passionate about helping people figure out, how do I actually, like, what are the nuts and bolts besides buying? Now, what do you do?
Yeah.
Right.
And how do you buy a house in a higher price point maybe than you would normally, is how I look at house hacking too. Is like, I was in the Bush Park area, which is a more expensive area in Colorado than like Lakewood. But I was able to get money from my primary residence home, which I think is so, and just all the different situations, nurses, if you're going through a divorce, if you lose your job, like owning a property, I feel like gives you more options to be able to make money from your largest liability, that you don't have that opportunity in most rentals.
So, you know, what's interesting is we share values, but like when I tell my friends, hey, I want to buy this house and I want to do this, they're like, don't you want your privacy? Don't you want XYZ? And I'm like, listen, what's more important, privacy or the ability to travel more because I don't have to worry, is my mortgage being
I
covered?
love that. Yeah.
Or the ability to work remote and go to a destination, not worry, how am I going to pay my mortgage? You know, or like worry, how am I going to pay my kids' daycare? Because my daycare cost now is covered by this in real estate investment. Like, how do you activate and enjoy your passions in life and not have to worry about making money from every little thing? How do you volunteer? How do you do things you care about? And you have to have almost like ways to think about covering your living cost so that even if you lose a job or your spouse loses a job, you're not financially ruined. You have that buffer, you know? So I always am like I promote it hugely as well.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you being on and sharing your story, Kat. It's always fun to hear different house hacking stories and journeys because I, like you, believe in the power of what owning a home, and especially a primary home, sets your future self up for more financial freedom. And I think that's the power of buying a house and house hacking and being willing to sacrifice some of your privacy to be able to get to the end goal.
Yep. Think big picture, what else you can enjoy, right? Yep.
Absolutely. Thanks for being on.
Yep. Thank you.